So, you want to learn how to speak perfect Mexican Spanish. But you might be thinking, what can this guy teach me about Mexican Spanish? He's obviously not Mexican, and he's obviously crazy. Well, you're right about both of those things. Pero, yo sí soy mexicano, pero de corazón. Llevo 2 años viviendo en México, amo el español mexicano, y he podido aprender un español bastante mexicano. So, now do you trust me? Do you believe me? Do you think that I can teach you Mexican Spanish? I hope so. I'm Nate. If you don't already know who I am, I'm from Southern California. Been living in Mexico for more than 2 years now. My girlfriend's Mexican. My business is teaching Spanish. I love Mexican Spanish. So, let's learn. Okay. First and most important phrase in Mexico is ¿Qué onda, güey? What's up, dude? Now, never, ever, ever say this to someone that you do not know. Only use this between friends. It is very informal. And if you were to say a word like güey to someone, they could get quickly offended. You could just say to someone, ¿Qué onda? But once again, it is very informal. This means what's up. And onda actually means a wave, like a microwave. Hola is actually a wave in the ocean. So, ola grande, una ola grande, a big wave. Whereas this is like a microwave, okay? ¿Qué onda? Wait. Now, this word, wait, is also very commonly written as this. Wait. And honestly, I write it like this much more. So W-E-Y, wait. Much more common because I don't want to have to constantly put the little 2 dots. I just want to put wait. Much easier, okay? Next is pedo. And the word pedo is notorious in Mexican Spanish because it can mean pretty much 10 million different things. Pedo traditionally means fart. And this is a fart cloud that I've drawn here. I know it's very accurate, so if you could please just leave a comment saying, Nate, great fart cloud, I really would appreciate it. I need that ego boost. So, pedo, typically meaning fart. But in Mexico, pedo can also mean drunk. Estoy pedo, I am drunk. Pedo can be a problem. So I can say, esto es un pedo. This is a problem. I can also say, ¿Qué pedo, güey? What's up, dude? But I could also say, ¿Qué pedo, güey? Like I'm angry, and it's like, what's up, man? Do we have a problem? Okay? Pedo can mean many different things, and you're gonna hear it all the time in Mexico. Okay? Next is chido, which means cool. I've heard in the north of Mexico people say chilo, where they kind of do an SH sound and almost like an L sound. Que chilo. Kind of interesting. But chido is the best one to use for cool in Mexico, but we also have the general word for cool, which is genial. Genial, okay? Cool. All right, but both work in Mexico. Chido is the Mexican version. Genial is the standard version you can use in any Spanish-speaking country, and they'll know what you're saying, okay? Next is no manches, which means no way. Get out of here. For real, no manches, all right? No manches literally means do not stain. So the verb manchar means to stain. So if you have something here on your shirt, that is una mancha, okay? So when I say to you, no manches, way, I'm literally saying, don't stain, bro. But what I mean is, no way, or for real. We also have the version no mames, which is vulgar, and I do not recommend that you use it. No mames comes from the verb mamar, meaning to breastfeed. So be careful with that one, okay? No manches, no way, get out of here, okay? Next, me da or me das, okay? When you order food in Mexico, never ever say me gustaría. If you say that, dead giveaway that you're not from Mexico, okay? Just say me da or me das. You can also say me trae, for example, or quiero, or voy a querer. But honestly, me da is the fail-safe way to order in Spanish for food and drink, okay? Let's say that you want a menu, for example. You would say me trae. Like, could you bring me a menu? You wouldn't ask, hey, can you give me a menu? Like, it sounds like you're ordering, okay? When you're ordering food or drink, just say me da or me das. Me da is for usted. Me das is for tú. If you're not sure which one to use, just use me da, okay? It's a little bit more polite. Both of these are polite, by the way. Many people think, oh, but that sounds kind of rude or strong. No, totally fine. Me da, very common way to order. Not rude at all. Next is aguas, literally waters. What this means is look out or be careful, okay? The reason that we say aguas is because back in the day, people would throw disgusting, dirty water out of their window and it would land on people's heads. So people used to say, aguas, look out, they're literally throwing disgusting water from their window. That, in the modern context, just means look out or be careful. So if you and I are crossing the street and a car's coming really fast, I can say to you, Aguas, look out, be careful, okay? Chale. Chale means, too bad, right? Ni modo means, oh well, or bummer. So, chale ni modo, right? Let's say you missed your train. You can say, chale ni modo. Like, dang it. Too bad, or oh well, bummer. Okay, chale ni modo, okay? So, now that you know very important words and phrases here in Mexico, you need to know the differences between Mexican Spanish and Spain Spanish, or Castellano. So, the first big difference is just different vocabulary uses. So in Mexico, when I talk about a pool, I wouldn't say la piscina, which I can still say it and people understand, but most people say la alberca, meaning pool. Okay, so tengo una alberca. I have a pool, right? So don't say piscina in Mexico, say alberca. Or a word like el celular, meaning cell phone here in Mexico, whereas in Spain they would say something like el móvil. It's important to note that in other Latin American countries, they are also going to have different vocabulary words. An infamous difficult word in the Spanish language is popote, meaning straw. So in Mexico, we would say something like popote. However, in Argentina, they might say bombilla. And in Spain, I can't even remember the word. It just goes to show that the word straw is very different in different Spanish-speaking countries. And there are certain words like banana or glasses that are different in all the different Spanish-speaking countries. But vocab, of course, is a big difference between Mexican Spanish and Castilian Spanish, okay? Next is, we don't use vosotros in in Mexico, okay? Vosotros is you guys or you all, okay? But it's informal. So let's say I'm talking to a group of my friends, I could say, vosotros qué hacéis? What are you guys doing, okay? That's informal. However, in Mexico, we just use ustedes for both informal and formal situations. So I could say, ustedes qué hacen? Meaning, what are you guys doing? I could be talking to a group of my friends, or I could be talking to a group of people in my work who are business professionals. Ustedes qué hacen esta noche? What are you guys doing tonight, for example? Okay, so vosotros is informal, used for you guys or you all. Okay, that's only in Spain. However, in Mexico, we will use ustedes in both informal and formal situations. Next, the famous lisp, okay? It's not really a lisp, it's just them, the way they pronounce the words, okay? That TH sound, okay? So, in Mexico, we would say cerveza, okay? The C has the S sound, and also the Z has an S sound. Z is not pronounced as Z, so it's not cerveza, no, it's cerveza, that S sound, okay? So, in Spain, we would say cerveza, all right? It's a bit harder and it's got that TH sound, okay? So, quiero una cerveza, for example. Whereas in Mexico, I would say quiero una cerveza, okay? Another fun fact, in Mexico, if you want to say beer and you want to sound like a local, instead of saying cerveza, say chela, all right? I apologize for my incredible handwriting, okay? Chela, all right? That also is an informal way to say beer, okay? Another thing, in Mexico, we would use what's called the preterite tense, whereas here we have the present perfect tense. So in Spain, I would say something like he ido, whereas in Mexico, I would say something like fui. Now, here's something to understand. We use both in Spain, and we use both in Mexico. However, in Spain, let's say I'm talking about my day, I could say something like, hoy he ido al mercado. Today, I have been to the market, okay? In the English brain, it sounds a bit odd and it sounds quite formal, okay? But to Spaniards, this is totally fine. Hoy he ido al mercado. Whereas in Mexico, I would say something like, hoy fui al mercado. Today, I went to the market, okay? So, the first, in this example with fui, today I went to the market, whereas he ido, today I have gone to the market, or I have been to the market, okay? So, Spaniards use this more often than Mexican Spanish use. However, you can use both in both countries, but it's much more common in Mexico to see this, which is the preterite tense, okay? And my final piece of advice for you is if you want to learn how to speak Mexican Spanish, speak with Mexicans and listen to Mexican audio. So, if you are trying to get that perfect Mexican accent or really impress native Mexican Spanish speakers with your Spanish, speak with Mexicans as much as you can and listen to Mexican audio. One of my students has a very high level of Spanish, but she never really focused in on any particular accent, and therefore she uses different vocabulary. You know, maybe it sounds like she's speaking from Colombia one moment, but then Spain in the next. So if you really want to hone in on the Mexican Spanish, focus on speaking Spanish with Mexican Spanish speakers and listen to Mexican audio. The reason that I have got this very Mexican Spanish is because not only am I from Southern California, so I was constantly surrounded by that, growing up, but I've been living in Mexico, and for the past 11 years, basically, I have been immersing myself in a more Mexican Spanish, okay? So, muchas gracias por ver este video. I hope you've learned something new. I love teaching Mexican Spanish, and if you want to learn more Spanish from me, click the link in the video description to check out our Fluent Spanish Speaker Academy. Our goal is to help you have a 10-minute conversation in Spanish in 90 days without feeling unconfident. So check it out by clicking the link in the video description. Muchas gracias y espero que tengas buen día. Hasta luego.